Hello everyone. How are you feeling? Oh wow, okay. Little bit. Good evening and thank you everyone for being here with us for watching our film Chup and to participate in something that's never been done before, a screening. My name is Shreya Dhanwantri and I'm in this film. I can't believe that. I can't believe I get to say that. Name, I'm pointing at the name. I still can't believe I get to say that and that this is my film, but about an army of 300 people are responsible for bringing a film together, all of whom believe in the magic of cinema. And tonight we're attempting to have a civilized conversation among people who make that magic and with people who inform us whether that magic is worth our while or not. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bharadwaj Rangan, who happens to be a passionate lover of cinema and a critic, to kick the rest of this evening.
So let me begin by asking, how excited are the filmmakers about this movie and how excited are the critics about this movie?
Not awkward at all. Not at all awkward.
You get once in a while you gotta make a movie like this or watch a film like this where filmmakers are taking on critics directly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting, super exciting.
Super exciting to kind of...
I'm always excited for every film because whichever film I go for, I go with the impression that it's going to be the biggest blockbuster of my career. So I'm excited, as excited about Chup as I am for any other film, genuinely.
Right. So, in general, all of you, whether we are filmmakers, when we're growing up and we're watching movies, did you read film criticism that has appeared in the papers, reviews or whatever it is? Did you begin by that? Would you read that and see, Achha, what have they said about this particular movie? How many stars has this movie gotten? Was that a part of the growing up?
Now it is, but I don't think when I was growing up, there were many film critics. Like, also grew up in Andhra Pradesh, so we were watching Telugu films. So whenever a Chiranjeevi film or any other stars film came, that's all the motivation you need to go watch it.
Right.
And if you didn't watch it on the first day or the first couple of days, and if your friends tell you it's not good, that's probably when you stop watching
right.
it. But otherwise, you pretty much watch all the films.
Anupama is here, so please.
Yeah, I know. Anupama Chopra is making an entrance. She's making a point right now, everybody.
Yeah.
Please note.
Yeah, she planned this. She wanted to,
My apologies.
Yes, sir.
I am so sorry. This is so embarrassing. I'm never usually late. Batty, please go on.
Yes. No. Please go on.
Oh yeah, no. So that's it. I mean, the whole concept of film critics is something that happened a little later, at least in my life.
Okay.
Like when I went to the States, that's when you start reading reviews, and then it was in the papers. Then it became available on the internet. So now it's more handy, and now I think everybody on Twitter is a reviewer at this point.
Yeah, which kind of brings me to this thing that now that we have, word of mouth coming in through Twitter, what role do critics actually have to do? Anis ji, what do you have to say?
Oh, for me? Yeah, okay. No, see.
Anis, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I? Okay. No, I mean, my whole thing about a film reviewer is that a film reviewer is somebody first who loves films, who respects the process of filmmaking, and who's knowledgeable about films. I think these three things become important, right? So unfortunately, like on social media, everybody who has an opinion may not be coming from the right places. That's where you kind of end up looking at critics' reviews, or in some cases, at some critics' reviews who you think, like over years, over many reviews, you think you've grown to respect their opinion, and you kind of, get swayed by that.
मुझे लगता है कि आज जो है इतने ज़्यादा क्रिटिक्स हो गए हैं कि पहले ये था कि एक तो बहुत कम लोग थे और संडे 2-3 दिन पिक्चर के रिलीज़ हो जाते थे, उसके बाद ये उनके रिव्यूज़ आया करते थे. अभी ये है कि कमर्शियली मुझे लगता है बहुत ही नुकसान होता है फिल्मों को अगर ख़राब लिखा जाता है तो, या कम स्टार मिलते हैं. लेकिन अब धीरे धीरे वो, मुझे पर्सनली ऐसा लगता है कि वहाँ तक आ गया है कि अगर बहुत ज़्यादा स्टार्स मिले हैं तो लोग शक से देखते हैं कि ये फिल्म ठीक नहीं होगी। ऐसा लगता है लोगों को, जो एक आम जनता है उनको लगता है अरे इस फिल्म के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा स्टार्स मिले हैं और ये फिल्म ठीक नहीं होगी। तो ये है। और मुझे लगता है कि ये जो है जहाँ तक क्रिटिक्स हैं अगर सही तरह से क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं फिल्म को तो दैट इज़ फाइन, बट उसको रोस्ट करना फिल्म को और फिल्म को एकदम कुछ अजीब कर देना और बड़ी अजीब सी लैंग्वेज में बहुत ही, तो वो मुझे लगता है कि शायद ठीक नहीं है। इसलिए कि ये तो सारी दुनिया जानती है, क्रिटिक भी जानती है कि एक फ़िल्म बनाने में कितना खून पसीना और मेहनत लगती है और बहुत ही ख़राब पिक्चर बनाने के लिए बहुत तकलीफ़ों से सोचना पड़ता है। तो अच्छी फिल्में जो होती है उसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा लोग मेहनत करते हैं, काम करते हैं और जब अपने काम के बारे में उनको ऐसा लगता है तो उनको लगता है कि शायद इन्होंने ये फिल्म नहीं देखी है जो हमने बनाई है, कोई और फिल्म की बात कर रहे हैं ये लोग।
Anu, you have something to add to that.
But अरे जी ये तो बहुत अक्सर you feel that हम में भी कि sometimes I am the only one who's loved a film. You know, so I think कि it's such a personal response कि yeah, I agree with you कि there has to be you can't roast. Finally, हम critics हैं, हम trolls नहीं हैं. You have to speak respectfully. But I feel like you know, पंकज त्रिपाठी ने एक बार कहा था कि film critics are like खाद, fertilizer. They help cinema grow. So I'm hoping that we do that.
Did you just call me down?
I did.
Okay. So, no, but I think Komal, when Brahmastra released, or before Brahmastra released, because you just said it is a personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
But you predicted that the film would do very well at a time that there were lots of doubts about the film and things like that. So do you think that it is possible for a critic to have like a finger on the audience's pulse, so to speak?
You know, here I'd like to say there is a difference between a critic and a film trade analyst. I am not a film critic. My job is to predict.
But you do write reviews, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are film trade analysts who write reviews and there are critics who write reviews. Why I'm not a critic is it's not a critic can say, I didn't like this, I loved this, I didn't like this, this is not good, this is not bad, and therefore the film didn't work for me.
Right.
We don't have that luxury. We don't say I. We say probably the public will like this, not like this. And that is why we predict figures. Like in the case of Brahmastra, I said the first weekend should be near about 100 crore. It touched 118. And I said the second, in my video review, I said the first week should stop at 165 crore or thereabouts. It stopped at 163 crore. And I said in 10 days, it will touch the 200 crore mark. It went up to 201. So we specialize in that kind of this. And for that, it is necessary to have a pulse, a finger on the people's pulse. But for critics, I don't think that is necessary because, as Rupma very rightly said, it's such a personal opinion. But we ought to have, otherwise we are not fit for the job.
Right. But if every member of the audience has a personal opinion, how is it possible to have a finger on the pulse?
When we say it will do so much, we're talking about the large mass base.
Okay.
Every film has people who have loved it and people who have not liked it. People who have found it okay, people who have found it great, people who have found... So we talk about considering the budget and how many people may like it, may not like it. So on that basis, we predict. And
I have no
yeah, that's
sense
what I'm
of
saying.
pulse.
No, that's what I'm saying. And a
you
critic
remember-
doesn't need that, doesn't need to. So the sad part, I'll tell you one more thing. The sad part is 99% of the critics or 90% of the critics have become trade analysts. And I don't think they need to do that because a critic is also doing his job or her job. But suddenly now everybody has started saying, I didn't like it and therefore the film won't run. But that is, Anupma doesn't do it. I'm just saying a lot of critics do it, which is not their job.
For me, you remember Sham Shroff, right? The wonderful distributor. He used to say, अगर तुम्हें picture अच्छी नहीं लगे, मुझे पता है hit होने वाली है.
Indra Kumar says that about Shabana Azmi. Indra Kumar always says, मैं शबाना जी को first show में बुलाता हूँ, and when she comes out, शबाना जी कैसी लगी? बोलो खराब है, बोलो खराब है, बोलो खराब है. शबाना जी says horrible. ये मेरी film hit है.
Alankrita, please come up on stage.
Yay! Hey! Hello.
I feel better. There's one person up.
So maybe this would be a good time to welcome you on stage and say, what do you think of critics?
And she's caught unaware. She doesn't know what the others have said.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I think we need them. That's number one. And I think that, personally, what I feel is that when you immediately read something that a critic has written and you feel like, why are they saying that? And so I think immediately sometimes you feel like, oh my God, like why has somebody said this? But I think eventually it helps you later, because I think like some of the stuff I think kind of stays, and sometimes it sort of helps you look at your work with some perspective, because when you're totally in it, I think you can't see it like with a bird's eye view. So I've always felt that in retrospect, a lot of the stuff makes sense. At that moment, of course, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I put in so much effort and no one's getting it. But I think it's fine. I think it's, the moment you make a film, you anyway, put yourself out there, you put your work out there. So just like the audience reacts, I think the critics have to react too. So it's fine.
But I think it's very difficult to judge कि आपको कैसी लग रही है फिल्म की. इसलिए मैं आपको एक जो छोटी सी मिसाल अपनी पर्सनल बताऊं कि मैंने एक फिल्म बनाई थी, प्यार तो होना ही था. तो उसका जो फर्स्ट ट्रायल हुआ था उसमें करीबन 50 लोग थे, 50 लोग थे, और सबको फिल्म बहुत बुरी लगी थी. और बाहर आकर उन्होंने मुझे ये नहीं बोला कि अच्छी है बुरी है, उन्होंने बोला ये क्या बनाया है. और एक फिल्म मैंने बनाई थी वेलकम. तो वेलकम में सारे लोगों को एक ही कंप्लेन था कि यार ये फिल्म में हंसी नहीं आती है. एंड बहुत लोग थे उसमें, मतलब 100 लोग थे. तो जब लोगों को भी हर आदमी का अलग वो, तो इट इज़ सो डिफ़िकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड एक फिल्म देखकर कि आपको जो लग रही है आप कैसे जज कर सकते हैं कि हाँ ये बिल्कुल करेक्ट है, ये गलत है. जो एक पल्स की बात कर रहे हैं हम, इट इज़ सो डिफ़िकल्ट टू नो. वो लोग कहते हैं कि भाई ये डायरेक्टर बड़ा अच्छा है, इसको पल्स आ गई है. ही इज़ ऑल्सो नॉट श्योर कि जो फिल्म बना रही है वो लोगों को पसंद आएगी कि नहीं आएगी. तो वो उसका एक जजमेंट है, उसका एक कन्विक्शन है जिस पे वो फिल्म बनाता है. तो इट इज़ सो डिफ़िकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड द फिल्म कि नहीं यार ये फिल्म को जो हम लिख रहे हैं कि ये माइनस पॉइंट है, ये प्लस पॉइंट है, क्या वही माइनस पॉइंट प्लस पॉइंट है, या जो शायद लिख रहे हैं कि जो माइनस पॉइंट है शायद वो प्लस पॉइंट है, और जो प्लस पॉइंट है वही माइनस पॉइंट है.
Anisa, sorry, back. Yeah. May I? Yeah, I know. I just feel like मैं यहाँ पे बैठी हुई हूँ इस पैनल पे. Look at me now. Any person, a film critic जो लिख रहा है, they're coming from a place of love for cinema as an art form, as craft. जैसा कोमल कह रहे थे, हम किसी भी मूवी थिएटर में जाते हैं, हम बैठते हैं उस सीट में, लाइट्स डिम होती है, and we want to fall in love with everything you are showing us. I want to champion every film. अगर उस फिल्म को देखने के बाद मुझे कुछ लगता है कि ये सही नहीं बैठा या ये सही नहीं बैठा, तो उसके पीछे एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, उसको रीज़न दिया जाता है. और यही एक द फिल्म क्रिटिक दैट यू चूज टू लिसन टू, उसमें डिफरेंस यही आपको मिलेगा कि आप उनकी बात सुन रहे हैं और वो बता रहे हैं कारण क्या है उसके पीछे. वो ये नहीं बोल रहे हैं कि ये खराब था, ये गंदा था. 1 2 3 4 सिनेमाटोग्राफी अच्छी थी, एडिटिंग खराब थी, ये अच्छा था, सेट डिज़ाइन अच्छा था. सेट डिज़ाइन अच्छा था तो क्यों, जो फिल्म की कहानी जहाँ जिस शहर में है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग. सो आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट वुड सेट क्रिटिसिज्म अपार्ट फ्रॉम people walking out of a theater saying हंसी नहीं आई. क्यों नहीं आई हंसी? वो जब कोई बैठने लिखेगा 4-5 घंटे लगाकर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में डालकर.
इट इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट आई पर्सनली फील, बिकॉज जैसे मैं आपको वेलकम की बात करूँ तो मैंने एक तकिया का नाम लिखा था, भगवान का दिया हुआ सब कुछ है, शोहरत है, दौलत है, इज्जत है, बस एक बहन है, उसकी शादी नहीं हुई, अच्छा ख़ानदान चाहिए. तो मेरे फिल्म के साथ जितने लोग जुड़े हुए थे, मेरे असिस्टेंट, मेरे एक्टर्स, उन्होंने कहा कि इतना बड़ा तकिया कलाम आज तक हमने नहीं सुना है. तो हाँ, नहीं सुना है, लेकिन मुझे लगता था और ये मुझे ऐसा नहीं है कि मुझे कोई पल्स पता है ऑडियंस का, दिस वॉज माई कन्विक्शन कि नहीं मुझे ये करना है, एंड मैंने किया। और उसके बाद जो है वो आप देखिए आज उसमें डायलॉग जो है, तो वो मुझे लगता है समझना कि क्योंकि आप जो भी गेज कर रहे हैं वो कुछ मिसाल को पहली पिक्चर में ये हुआ था, ये हुआ था, ये हुआ था, इसलिए ये करेक्ट होगा। वो सेम चीज़ जो है दूसरी फिल्म के लिए शायद वो रॉन्ग हो सकती है।
You know, Anish ji,
Just 1 second, but Raj is being very chup today. This is like so like I had to use.
he's promoting the film.
Yeah.
I'm promoting the film.
He's symbolically, metaphorically, because I'm a critic, I have to use these words. So
You throw in a pun every like couple of sentences.
Yeah. So
That's how the headlines are, right?
yeah.
Can be Chup at this film.
No, but I just want to ask you, when you have, when you put out a film, do you stay away from like reviews, or do you actively seek out reviews and look at them?
I think I'm a review junkie. I read a lot and I watch a lot of reviews. Of course, I want them to disappear when the film is not working, saying, fuck off, I don't want these reviews. Or when the movie is good, I want to read all the reviews. But I save some of it for later. Like she was saying, that I go back and say, why was that movie so panned? What happened? Really, I really loved it, and a lot of people like it. So I go back later at a better frame of mind to understand what they're saying. For me, why I like reading reviews, there's also another factor. I feel lately, or maybe for a long time, it's also a little bit like an art form. The writing sometimes, or there's an analysis, or just a sentence construction or a certain observation is so good that I want to enjoy reading it. I want to enjoy watching it. In fact, I stop sometimes, call another person, read out a few lines that have encapsulated something very strongly, beautifully, or even negatively. Doesn't matter. Just the way they put it together. So I realize that these few people that I read or listen to or watch, there's a lot of art in it. There's a lot of craft in it. So I give that a lot of weightage. For me, even if it's not my film, other film reviews, I read some of them because I want to see how they're seeing it and also just enjoy the process of reading it. And about Anish ji, my thing is that there is no avoiding critics. We can never avoid critiquing. So anybody will start tomorrow. Let's say all the critics quit tomorrow. Another Twitter, somebody starts, and before you know, there's following for them. So it's going to be part of film. When there's a film, there's a critique. So I think both go hand in hand, and we love them, we hate them. So we want them on our posters.
You love them when they review a film well. You hate them when they don't.
Yeah. So
I was just saying that when he said finger on the pulse, I don't have, but मेरा conviction था. मुझे लगता है कि इनका conviction ही वो pulse है. Finger on the pulse, वो ही है. He is not realizing it, but that is what is. It's all about knowing the pulse of the public.
So one question to the filmmakers: do you think that, again, now that social media is doing all the word of mouth, do you think the critics or the reviewers' reviews can make or break a film?
Looks like it cannot break a film that easily, because you've seen mega success films that don't have a lot of critical acclaim, and a lot of critical acclaim films just get an award at an obscure festival and don't make money at all. So every film, the success of a film for me is different. The success of a film is not necessarily box office. For a lot of films, it is. For quite a lot, it's also critical acclaim. For somebody else, it's just people loving it, a bunch of people liking it. So it's the scope of what the filmmaker or the film is set out to look for is the success of the film for me. Because not a sweet film is being made, and he's never going to expect it to break box office records. That's not the reason why it was made or what he's aspiring to, what he or she is aspiring for. So yeah.
Right. So
can I take that one?
Yeah.
I genuinely feel no critic, no trade analyst, no reviewer can ever come even close to changing the fate of a film.
Yeah.
Never.
Agreed.
Never.
If you think we have that power.
Exactly. And
Like,
I'll tell you with
superhuman right now.
examples what will happen. People read reviews because, as he said, I love reading reviews. Film buffs like some reference, they read it. It's at the back of their mind. Suppose I have reviewed a film badly. a non-film person has read it, a film buff has read it. His parents see the film, or his family sees the film, his kids see the film, his children see, his wife sees the film, and they come and say it's a wonderful film. Is he ever going to say, no, Komal Nata said it's not a good film, so I will not see? Of course he will forget what I have said. He will go by the word of mouth. So the word of mouth is important, and whoever thinks that critics or trade analysts can change the fate of a film or can mold public opinion is far removed from reality. We are just doing our job, but we are not so important.
Arey sir, my own parents don't listen to me. They
We are
watch
not-
everything.
we
They're
are not
sitting
so
there, they go
important.
and watch everything I say don't watch. They go watch it. कोई नहीं सुनता हमारी.
At a bigger scale, I understand Komalji's point of view. But I have seen when I was in the US and the Telugu films were coming there, right? There are 3 sites, only 2 at that point. Maybe like 7, 10 of them, but 2 were noticed, or like people know about them. That guy writes a review that's off. The film doesn't get bookings. People, NRIs don't go. I've seen this happening. That's a strange part of it. In that subsect, I could see a site giving it, they give it in decimals also, 2.25. Film is fucked. So people don't go. There's no tickets being sold. I'm telling you, it's amazing that if you take the track record of those 2, 3 sites and look at anything under 2.25, 2.75 is a success. 2.25, people have not gone to theaters there. So, hey, it goes both
I've
ways.
मेरी
always
तरफ से
wondered-
पौने 3 star.
Yeah, I've never understood this. I mean, I can understand, we did away with star ratings at Film Companion when I was there, but I've never understood this 2.75, 3 point,
I think they took the rating system to the next level of accuracy.
Yeah, it's like you're-
84.3%.
Yeah, it's like, you're really, really getting specific out there. It's not just a 2 on 5, it's a 2.25 on 5. Like, so like an extra quarter point is being awarded for some particular merit that nobody knows why. So,
I just wanted to add something, to that previous question. So while I feel that I think reviews may not make a big difference for a film which is, destined for commercial success, I think for smaller films, which are, which don't have those kind of budgets and stuff in terms of publicity, marketing, they may not be led by very, like the same kind of stars. I think for those kind of films, if a lot of critics give those films good reviews, I think it definitely helps those films. So I don't think that it's like the critics have no role, but I feel like they can definitely help, promote a film, as in like create like a good buzz for a film which otherwise may not have access to, just like a lot of marketing and promotion.
Yeah, that's actually true. I was about to say that speaking of word of mouth, right? When a really small film comes, the word of mouth, there's no enough critical mass for the word of mouth. It's the critics who pretty much it's their job. They end up watching every film out there. And when everybody starts raving about it, not just one critic, let's say, then automatically the people start listening. They're like, why is everybody saying it's a great film? Or they wouldn't even have bothered watching it in the first place. So critics do have the power to make a small film. And we've
And also,
personally
like-
experienced it too in our, like a couple of our small films where the first few weeks were, like first few days were actually made by good critical reviews. Otherwise, people wouldn't even have bothered knowing about the film.
Also, if somebody is writing a piece about a film that is authentic and that's coming from a place of love and respect, you're also talking about the film for posterity. We read about older films that came before our time via reviews on reviews that are now converted to books that are on websites that were in print at one point of time. So that is also a role that film criticism plays, is that you are having a conversation around a film that's now a part of history for people to read 10 years later, 20 years later, if we survive climate change.
Yeah, and then they talk about that one reviewer who gave a bad review to Memento and he's going to be shamed for life,
A good film critic will also not shy away from saying that they changed their mind about a
Yeah, that
review
has
that they
happened
wrote.
too once in a while.
Yeah, that happened with Bonnie and Clyde. The Time magazine critic first tore it apart, and then like when the movie suddenly caught on, he went and watched it again, and then I think it was Jay Cox, the guy who works with Martin Scorsese. So
And there was one story about the Cannes Festival director rejecting Amelie when it came out, and he became infamous for that once that happened.
Right. Now, I have a question for filmmakers. Do you think critics need to have technical knowledge. And I'm going to read out a very favorite quote of mine. This is something that the director George Roy Hill wrote to the critic Pauline Kael, who was a New Yorker critic, after she trashed his blockbuster film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So this is what he wrote: "Listen, you miserable bitch." That's how he began the letter. And he said, "You've got every right in the world to air your likes and dislikes, but you have no goddamn right at all to fake at my expense a phony technical knowledge you simply do not have." I'd like you to take this forward.
Now I see where Balki got the basis for this film.
I think a decent base is good, but again, as a critic gets more experience, they also gain a lot of filmmaking techniques and technicalities about it, and hence you respect the person more. Otherwise you have many critics that just mouth off and you don't care for them anymore. So it's really, it's okay. Even we didn't go to film school. It's not like I can't make a film. So you don't have to go to a film school to become a critic either. But it's just a balanced approach and sensibilities that you have. And like somebody just said, you said that you're not trolls. As long as critics, and critics don't turn into trolls. The trolling is where it slips sometimes. Again, a human error, I understand. But we've had some reviews from respected big critics that just becomes a bit of trolling. And that's when you kind of start hating that process. Otherwise, it's a very love-hate relationship, but then that little trolling, that venomous little bile that comes out once in a while is where it'd be nice to hold that back, but then again, everybody is human, so you make mistakes. So,
and, speaking of technical knowledge, I've always thought about this when reading reviews. Right, a lot of times critics do go wrong in. When there's, sometimes when a film is too long, automatically everybody blames the editing. Maybe it's a screenplay that's long. So it's very hard to tell. As a filmmaker, I can't tell when a film is long. It takes a lot of in-depth thinking and talking to people to figure out where the film faltered. But it's very easily, said, bad editing because the film is too long. It's not that simple to begin with.
I would even extend that to even dialogues.